time we look, you all are 2.5 miles ahead of the majority of the agencies, I would say. Can you give us perhaps maybe a specific program that you'd like to highlight inside of this architecture framework that you all are pursuing?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we mentioned AI, because we can't go 5 minutes without mentioning AI recently, it seems. And we need another audit or two on AI as well. I'm joking, please, no more audits. We've done a number of things really quite right. Sometimes by accident, sometimes on purpose. I think one of the things early on that USCIS got right was giving the CISO the ICANN program. I is all identity. That enabled us to do things that really was very difficult for other organizations to do. But I think if I was really to highlight something that I think we've been wildly successful at, and it's been touched on by several people here already, it is the importance of automation. We quickly realized early on, and actually, you were DHS's CIO during some of this, when we had our first real kind of big cloud incident. And it was really a matter of us not fully understanding how to operate in the cloud as much. It wasn't really much of an incident at all in the end. But what it did teach us is the value of automation and the importance of what it is, and not just for the developers. What we quickly learned that if the developers are able to do things via programming, so can we. And it was really our first foray and kind of exploration of security automation, as it were. We were very new to it. And in fact, in 2015, when we first started deploying some of the solutions around it, honestly, we failed the first 3 times we did it. I can tell you 3 very distinct ways how not to do it. But
we'll say that for the lessons learned.
Yeah, no kidding. But we ultimately kind of, one of the things that with security programming we have done is sort of developed, kind of adopted the agile mindset where failure is not failure, failure is learning. And you already move on. And so we took from that, we learned, and we took from the next failure, we learned, and we got it right. And then one of the other things we decided to do is, because we were automating specific tasks. These were tasks that were manual to begin with, and now we're going to automate them. We knew how much time manually those tasks take and approximately how much it costs us to run those manual tasks. We could assign dollar value to it. And so every time we would execute one of these automations, we could actually tell you the dollar value of that, the value of it. It's not really a 1-for-1 kind of ratio, but it did give us an indicator of sort of a return on investment. And I think in the first year that we were somewhat successful at automation, I think we managed to save like $600,000, something like that. We thought we were the coolest thing since sliced bread. I think right now we're on track to do closer to 20 million this year. We've gotten very, very, very successful at it. And it's so much so that we begin looking at security very differently. If you are going to operate in the cloud and your infrastructure is code, that also means your security is code too. And so, we started changing the actual nature of our workforce. You go into my SOC and there are SOC analysts and security analysts and threat hunters and all the normal sort of SOC kind of people you'd have, as well as the development team. And because every cloud incident I've ever worked involves development. So we started also looking across the spectrum of what I owned as a CISO in terms of operationally and what really was of value for us to automate. So we started looking at things like secrets management, automating the ability for us to do that. We looked at certificates and said, well, that too should be automated. Why are we doing manual certificates like in the past? We were doing all these automations primarily because, one, we had the ability to do it. But more importantly, it made good sense from a security practice because you could remove the human out of the equation. Several people have said that already. Humans are dangerous animals, and we all know that. And so being able to automate those features, we become, we started also looking at things like API security. All cloud, everything cloud is API driven. Being able to secure your API interface was critical for us, and automating that security was even more so. And then finally, we really started looking heavily at our data intake. When we were primarily an on-prem organization, we probably took in 0.5 terabyte worth of log data a year. It stayed fairly static. It never really changed. The minute we started jumping into the cloud, the amount of logs that we were ingesting started going up exponentially. Pretty sure by this time next year we'll be in the neighborhood of 20 terabytes in a day. That's well beyond human capabilities. This is where automation becomes your friend. But we also started realizing that, a lot of times when we talk about automation, we talk about SOC automation. Automation from my perspective, and I think this is where we've gotten very successful as well, is applying it beyond just the SOC. This includes risk management, this includes governance and even policy. And so we are now looking at how do we automate documentation. I can't, it drives me absolutely back crazy that I have people filling out documentation. I can't handle that. When in fact we can probably automate vast portions of that. How do we automate a lot of our risk management, our ongoing authorization program, and really, I tell my team all the time, I'm after the ATO in a day, dream. That I think these things are possible. They're very doable, and I see the application of the automation program that we put in place as sort of really, just sort of chipping away at how we do that. And like I said, I think that USCIS has really kind of blazed the path in this way. So much so that, one of the things I'm always saying to the CISO Council of DHS is, if you're putting out new security contracts that they don't have development teams built into it, you're probably doing something wrong.
Good catch.
They are so critical to your operation.
Yeah, it's a good catch.